There we go. Now, joining us live here on Facebook, I'm Chris Saxman, Virginia Free Executive Director, a former colleague of mine who I served with in the House of Delegates from 2002 to 2004, former Delegate Winsome Sears. Winsome, you have some news for us today.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Chris, and good morning, Virginians. I am announcing my run as a write-in candidate for the United States Senate this coming November 6th election. I'm not on the ballot, so you're going to have to write me in, and I'm running against Corey Stewart, who is the Republican nominee.
So you're running against Corey Stewart, not Tim Kaine and not Matt Waters.
Well, Tim Kaine was never an option for me. I'm a Republican. There are certain beliefs that I have, and it doesn't sit well with Tim Kaine's beliefs. And so he was never an option for me. And I know Tim Kaine, and there's some issues in the background there. So when I saw that the Republican Party, only 5.5%, by the way, had nominated Corey Stewart as the nominee, I knew that I had to get in the race, because the things that Corey Stewart believes in, I don't believe in, and especially as a black person, especially if you have, you're a Jewish person or anybody of color. I mean, Corey Stewart has racist things that he says and he does, and he says he's not a racist, but he associates himself with them. He has employed them. They are still employed with him. And he says, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but we just can't stand for this. The Republican Party cannot be the party that has him as their candidate.
So instead of leaving the Republican Party and running as an independent or running a future race, you decided to throw your hat in out of all politics. But it sounds to me more like a protest vote within the Republican voters in Virginia to vote for someone else other than the nominee. Is that fair?
Yes, because you see, it's all going to come out about Corey Stewart for those of them who don't know it yet. Because the fact of the matter is that Corey Stewart has said that Paul Nehlenz is his personal hero. That's what he says, personal hero. Now, Paul Nehlenz is a white supremacist and a Nazi, and he doesn't apologize for that. Now, Corey Stewart is suddenly backtracking and saying that he didn't know that about Paul, and he is no longer with Paul. He doesn't support him. But when you look at the timeline, you see that it was only after the backlash started, and this was about a year later, that Corey Stewart finally wised up and decided that a white supremacist Nazi is not going to be his personal hero any longer. But then here's the other issue. He has employed and still employs people from Paul Nehlen's campaign. So either you don't support the man or you do. And then he himself, Corey Stewart, goes to a secessionist party, a forum, and he knows that it's being held by this man. I believe his name is Wallace, down near South Boston. And he attends this information, this gathering, and he's the speaker. He is introduced by the secessionist wife, Donna, and then Corey Stewart goes on to say that Virginians, we rebel against the established order, and we rebelled in the revolution, which is okay. We should have rebelled. We did. Great thing. America is what it is today. But then get this. He continues by saying, and we rebelled in the Civil War. What are you saying? What? We were right, Virginia was right to rebel in the Civil War, so are you saying then the wrong side won the Civil War? Mr. Stewart, is that what you're saying? And when you ask him about this, he tries to run away from it. And then he tries to tell you that he's not a racist. But let's see.
So you've obviously got a problem with Corey Stewart.
I
think
do.
It's been well reported, his action over the last year and a half or so. But why not just say I'm supporting Tim Kaine or Matt Waters, the Libertarian? Why a write-in candidacy, Winsome? And you've been in elective office. You've served on the State Board of Education. Before we came on, you were telling me about your deep background in political conversations at the table in Jamaica. You're a naturalized citizen. You're a veteran. Why not do something different? Why a write-in candidacy?
Well, because, as I said before, Tim Kaine believes in abortion. I can't support abortion. In fact, he believes in abortion to the extent that if the baby could be born alive today, full-term baby, then he believes it would be all right, and he would vote this way, for the mother to abort the baby and leave the baby on the table to die.
I think that's called the Born Alive Infant Protection Act. Is that what you're referring to?
Right.
And you know that I've never heard that's been his position, and so you have an objection.
It became his position when he ran for office with Hillary Clinton, you see, and so he was never that. But you see, when you're trying to get votes, it seems to me that some people will say and do anything. He believes in partial birth abortion, that late-term abortion. I can't support that. You can't talk to me about your economic policies when you believe in abortion to the point where, to me, it would be murder. I can't support you. And then
so
you're
it's a non-starter for you on the pro-life issue. Okay. I'm just trying to get the audience to understand where you are on these issues relative to everybody else. So you're out. So a write-in candidacy. You're getting ready to launch it. You're announcing your website later today. What's the website?
It's voteforwinsomesears.com. The number 4.
Okay. And what do people have to do to write in your name on the ballot? Do they have to write out Winsome Sears, Winsome E. Sears, Winsome Earl Sears? What do they have to do?
They just have to write my name, even if they put Winsome. That'll be right. If they spell it exotically, Winsum, it'll be okay, because there are not that many Winsomes in the world, and the election officials will know that it's me. So it's very simple. It's Winsome Sears. Winsome Sears. Very simple.
Now, it's at the bottom of our screenshot here, Winsome Sears, and you'll have your website up, and you'll be up on social media.
And remember, people will have their cell phones when they say, "What's her name again?" Oh yeah, there it is. There it's on your cell phone. Pull it up; it'll be on your cell phone.
Okay, very good. And you'll be campaigning around the state. Have you been talking to Republicans, former Republicans, independents, Democrats? What's the response been?
I've actually had very good response even before I started, because I could see that there were many people and many Republicans who had abandoned Corey because of these white supremacist issues and these white nationalism. This is just not good for our country. There is a way to disagree with people without being disagreeable. And Corey's brand of politics only helps Corey and divides the rest of us. You see, he has planted some seeds, and if he didn't, they were there and he watered them. And these are evil things that he's trying to force on us just so he can get some votes. And he'll tell you now that, I didn't really believe that. Well, why did you say them? Who are you, Mr. Stewart? You're lying to us before you're even in office.
So why not just the polls don't show him doing well. They'll probably tighten up on the generic ballot. It's a long shot for Corey. It's not a targeted race in the Senate for Senate Republicans. Why not just let this thing ride out and let it be over in November and start over again in November? Why are you getting in now, less than 60 days out of the election?
Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it, Chris. The thing is, it's not enough for us to just say we're not going to support him. We're not going to vote for him. We're not going to give him money. We're not going to show up with him. We're going to turn our back on him. That's not enough. You have to be proactive and say, this far we will go, no further. This is not the Republican Party. President Lincoln must be rolling over in his grave when here we are 150 years later fighting a battle that we've already won and doing it under the party that nominated him and got him in office, the Republican Party. And Chris, all around the country, you have white nationalists, Nazi people who are running as Republicans. As Republican, how do they feel? How do they come to believe that this is the Republican Party that would support them? So when somebody else comes up and says, I'm here, I'm a Republican, we're not going to do this anymore. We've got to tell them, white supremacists, Nazis, you've got to find your own party. Winsome is here, vote for Winsome. Because you see, there's going to come a time with the October surprises, as you know, the famous political surprises, where we talk about Corey, and there's some people, believe it or not, who don't know who the true Corey Stewart, the white supremacist issues and all that are about him. And when they say, well, who are you going to vote for? You can't vote for Corey. Well, you can vote for Winsome, and you can show that this is the party that does care about black people, that does care about minorities, that does not support Mr. Stewart. It's not enough not to vote for him, not to give him money. You have to be proactive. And frankly, I'm tired of having to defend certain things that are happening in my party. The Republican Party is my party. So when people who look like me say, well, Winsome, this is your party. You see who they nominated. I can say, no. Only 5.5% of Republicans went to the primary and voted. And so 5.5% doesn't represent the entire party. And that's why I'm doing this. There are black people who are Democrats who would love to support the Republican Party. But when you have a man like Corey Stewart, what do you say? You got to have somebody else, and I'm that somebody else. We've got to be proactive.
So somebody's got to do it after the primary. That's the theme. But what other issues are you running on as a Republican? What do you think Republicans around the state should be running on? Because I'm sure several candidates are out there going, I don't want to be, connected with that. And I'm sure you're experiencing that when you get on the campaign trail. What should they be running on, the Republican Party in Virginia?
Well, first of all, we've got to make sure that we protect our jobs. We have to make sure that people can earn a decent living, people can earn a good living. And we're doing that, especially on the national level, with these tax cuts. These tax cuts have put money in people's pockets so that we can help the economy. Now, I know some people refer to it as crumbs, but, $1,000 to a person like me, not crumbs, and to many Virginians is not crumbs. So we'll take the crumbs. And then
and you're a small business owner.
I'm a small business owner.
Tell us about your business. What do you do?
Well, I have an appliance repair and plumbing and electric company. And because of these tax cuts, I've been able to give money back to my employees, and they're not thinking it's crumbs. I've been able to raise their wages. They're not thinking it's crumbs. So we need to protect these tax cuts. When the president got the tax cuts through and, businesses were able to bring their money back, the profits back into the country without that heavy taxation, it spread the wealth. So we need to make sure now, and that's what I would be voting for if I am so blessed to get into the Senate, thanks to you folks who will be writing me in. And by the way, I'm asking for independent votes. You voted for me when I was a delegate. You voted for me when I ran for Congress. I'm asking for, yes, libertarian votes. You voted for me. And I'm asking for Democratic votes because the truth is I ran as a delegate in a 54% Democratic district. And I ran as a Republican. I didn't run away from who I am. And they knew who I was. They understood who I was. And Democrats voted for me. Democrats gave me money because, you see, it's not necessarily about the party. It's who are you and what do you stand for? What are you about? Will you take care of the issues that I care about and not these white supremacist Nazi things? So let me go back to the tax issue. So what we need to do now is to make sure that the personal taxes will be permanent, because right now, they're temporary. So that's one thing. The next thing is education. I could go on about the jobs, but we're limited in time. So my next thing is education. If you don't have a good education, you're not going to get anywhere. Education and jobs go together. That goes without saying. So we have to make sure that one of the things that I saw when I was on the Board of Education was that in the poorer communities, the teachers that would be hired in the poorer communities, in the poorer school districts, would be straight out of school. And they would stay, these new teachers, God bless them, they would stay for 2 years and then they would move on because the school district is poor. So the poorer districts became a training ground for the new teachers. And it just doesn't work when you have such high turnover, even though the teachers love the children, but they have families too, and they have to go where they can pay their own bills. So we've got to find a way to fund these schools and fund them to the capacity where they can compete with richer school districts, if you want to put it in those terms. But here's something else. My father came to America before I was born, actually, in 1963, the year before I was born. And he came during the height of the Civil Rights Movement. And I said to him, why did you come? It was 11 days before Martin Luther King gave his I Have a Dream speech. So I said, why did you come? And he said, because this is where the jobs were. And I said, but it was hard for us then. And he said, but this is where the opportunities were. And so if my dad can come to America, a place not his country, and put himself through school, working jobs that nobody else might want, hard jobs, put himself through school, no financial aid, and he became a homeowner, a taxpayer, contributed to society with $1.75 in his pocket, then I know that the poor folks in Virginia, in America, they can do the same. I know it can be done, but you need a good education to do it. And so we've got to get our education right. But Chris, finally on this point about education, when I was a delegate, one of the things I did was I would go into my school districts, and I had many of the poorer places in my district. So I would go down to the schools. I wanted to encourage the children. And I went to 3rd grade this one time, and I was telling them how we make laws. And I said to them, now I want you to make the law. What law do you want to make? And one little boy raised his hand and he said, I want to make it a law that if you kill someone, you have to pay for their funeral. I know. Wow. Now, you have to ask yourself, what's going on in this little boy's community, 8 years old, 9 years old, that this is what he thinks of when he wants to make a law? So when we talk about making education better, we've got to look at what's going on in the community. Because if you're a teacher, how do you teach around that? How do you help a child? Now, see, if you're a teacher in the poorer districts, you're a social worker, you're a comforter, you're a caregiver. These are the kinds of things that money will not, it's just not going to work. So we've got to find a way to get our faith-based communities to help, and they're already doing it, but we can't have this dichotomy where education solely, faith over there, community helps, it's just not going to work. And so, finally,
okay,
go ahead.
No.
Finally, we could go on forever, but finally I want to talk about healthcare. Healthcare. The budget is 3/4 of it is eaten up in social issues. And
federal budget, by that you mean Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security.
Okay. Right, the federal budget. And with so many people, you're a baby boomer, aren't you?
No.
I'm a baby boomer. Oh, well, I'm a baby boomer. I'm the tail end. I'm the last year of the baby boomer.
I'm so much younger than you are. I'm so much younger than you are.
And what's happening is they're getting older. I think I read somewhere that it was 10,000 a month or something like that. I could be wrong. Who are
probably a day.
You see, so we are going to be in dire stress if something isn't done. And many are retiring, and we don't have the kinds of retirement income or the retirement funds that are going to carry us. And what are we going to do? And now we've expanded Medicaid, Medicare, and the like. So one of the things I think we need to do, especially when it comes to prescription drugs, is to make sure that, this is America. If you invent a drug, you ought to be able to reap the benefits of that. But if our allies, our so-called allies, are stealing our intellectual property, even in the pharmaceutical industry, then it makes drugs more expensive for us. And so we've got to make sure that we take care of that with our allies and tell them, you can't do that anymore. We've got to find a way.
Jobs, education, healthcare, three primary planks. You obviously spoke passionately about the pro-life issue. Just backing it up for our audience here, naturalized citizen from Jamaica, a Marine veteran, where you got your
I believe I'm the only veteran in the race. Imagine that.
You're probably the only electrician, and you're probably the only electrician too. Journeyman electrician with the Marine Corps.
Journeyman electrician, that's right. So, my father was part of a union, and though I'm not a part of a union, and people have asked me, Winsome, do you believe in unions? How do you get rid of unions? Well, if you want to get rid of the unions, what you have to do is you have to treat your people right. You've got to take care of your employees. I mean, that's a no-brainer.
That's called the marketplace. That's all it is.
There it is. Take care of people. They'll work for you. They'll work with you. But you got to take care of people.
There's nothing wrong with unions. It's just a way for people to get to express their opinion. There's obviously laws and balances that must be to be applied in there, and so people aren't. I think from the business community standpoint, aren't. We can go down that path, but so they're not coerced or forced into giving their dues up. I mean, I think that goes against some of the freedoms. But unions have done wonderful things for this country, and to suggest that the business community doesn't support unions or doesn't like unions is just inaccurate. The reality is, though, there's a balance in any relationship, and that's what people should be working on, I think. But anyway, so a Marine, you ran for the House of Delegates. Won in a 54% Democratic district. I'll never forget, Winston, the first time I met you, we were at a Republican event, caucus meeting for the candidates that year in 2001, and we all said, hey, Winston, nice to meet you. You're not going to win, right? And to your credit, you didn't listen to any of us, and you just pressed on, and that's why one of the reasons I've always admired you personally and consider you a friend. And wish you the very best in this run. But a write-in candidacy is the longest shot of all long shots.
Here's the thing.
What are you planning on doing to win, to get as many votes as you can? You said you're running against Corey Stewart, not necessarily against Tim Kaine. So this sounds like an effort to reform the Republican Party. Is that fair?
Well, I don't think so much as reform, but to say we're not going to take it anymore. That the white supremacists, the Nazis, they've got to get out of our party and go form their own party, because they're trying to associate themselves with true Republicans. Listen, true Republicans supported me, and look at me. True Republicans helped to fund my campaign. True Republicans voted for me. True Republicans asked me to run. The Nazis would not have and did not, and the white supremacists would not and they did not. And so they are not Republicans. They are what they are. They're white supremacists. They're Nazis. They need to go form the white supremacist, the Nazi party, and leave Republicans alone. And then we as Republicans need to be proactive to say, that's not who we are. Yes, we say that's not who we are, but we need to vote. Because you see, sometimes a victory, and I know it's going to be a difficult road to hoe, as my grandmother would say, as a write-in candidate, me as a write-in candidate. Sometimes a victory is not in numbers. It is in upholding your principles. And so I'm hoping that there are enough Republicans out there who believe the way that I'm saying, that things are happening, that we need to be, and you will write in my name. You're not just not going to support Corey Stewart. You're not going to vote for him, but you're going to do something else. You're going to write in my name to say, we believe in the Republican Party principles. This is who we believe in, and her name is Winsome Sears.
Okay, well, that's I think we're going to end on that one. That was, I think, a good, strong closing argument for yourself. And we can have you on back whenever you want to. We do this, as I do with any candidate who wants to run for office. I think it's great for the public to engage in a civil discourse. We've gone down a path of uncivil discourse for far too long in this country.
Far too long.
To any candidate of any party, I wish you well and the very best, because one of the things that keeps our democracy vibrant and growing is more candidates jumping in whenever they daggone well feel. And I think it's very disruptive. It's very Uber of you, very Lyft, very Tesla, very,
It's very America.
It's very American. America. It was a great article in National Review with Roger Scruton, who's considered the dean of conservative thought in the world. And he said, Americans tend to create things when it doesn't work. And when it's not working in the directions, they go off and do what they want to do. And to anyone who jumps in the political fray, I wish them well. And I especially wish you well, my friend, for many years. And I think we'll sign off and hopefully have you back on so you can update us on what your campaign's doing. But in order for people to vote for you, they have to write in your name, Winsome Sears, on the ballot, correct?
That's right. They have to write it in. And don't forget, I need funds. So please send some funds my way so that we can get this thing really going full steam.
Do they have there'll be a donation page on your website?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's going to be live today?
Here's the address. 174 Garber, Garber Lane, Winchester, Virginia, 22602. And folks, if you send me $3, I'll take it. If you send me $5, I'll take it. You know, and I know it takes money to run campaigns.
It sure does, and that's part of as before we came on the air, you said people don't understand how much it takes just to get a campaign running. I mean, all the laws and regulations, and that's probably
it's like starting a business. You have to get a tax ID number. You have to have employees per se. It's
not per se. You have to have employees. That's just the deal. There's nothing per se about that at all. So your website, votewinsomesears.com, will be up later today, or is it live now?
It should be.
Votewinsomesears.com.
I haven't checked yet, but it should be.
Okay. Well, we'll update this video for folks, and I'm sure you're going to get some press calls, and you probably should.
We'll see what happens, but we want everybody to know Corey Stewart is not our guy. He is not the future of the Republican Party, and that's why you're going to write me in to show he is not the future.
Okay. So is this a protest campaign?
I'm protesting all the way to November 6th.
There we go. That's a political pro answer right there. Okay, Winsome, we're going to sign off here.